Tonight, as you settle in and allow the day to soften and fade, let your thoughts drift toward a quiet question hidden among the stars. In a calm future where humanity has learned to live gently among the planets, a physicist named Alan Mercer makes a discovery that changes everything, not with noise or danger, but with a strange kind of kindness written into the universe itself. Faster than light travel, long believed impossible, turns out to be perfectly achievable and carefully forbidden. Far beyond Pluto, in the deep and patient dark, a test ship touches the edge of a rule older than humanity. Space does not break. Time does not shatter. Instead, reality calmly redirects them, as if guided by an unseen hand enforcing an ancient agreement meant to protect cause and effect itself. As you listen, you'll follow Alan and a steady-handed pilot as they uncover evidence of forgotten civilizations, shattered timelines, and a cosmic system designed not to punish, but to preserve. This is not a story of rebellion or conquest, but of responsibility, restraint, and the quiet moment when humanity realizes it is late to a very important conversation. The test ship floated far beyond Pluto, in a quiet place where sunlight was weak and thin. Around it, the stars looked sharp and steady, like cold eyes watching from a distance. The hull of the ship gave off almost no light. Most systems were on low power, as if the ship was trying not to disturb the stillness around it. Inside, Captain Elena Cruz rested in her harness. She was calm, her dark hair pulled back, her breathing slow. The cabin lights were soft and dim, letting her eyes rest. Beside her, a row of screens showed numbers climbing, graphs bending toward a bright red line. Dr. Alan Mercer drifted near the main console, hand tucked under a strap. At 47, he had spent his life trying to reach this line. His gaze was quiet, careful. The readings said they were about to pass light speed. All the math agreed. Every check said the same. Nothing in known physics blocked this move. Transition in 10 seconds, Elena said, her voice steady. Alan watched as space outside the front window seemed to grow very still. The ship's experimental field started to glow on the displays. A simple blue ring around their hull. Then, slowly, the stars ahead bend. It did not feel like a jump. It felt like a patient turn. The black around them thickened, as if rules were hardening in place. Values on the screen, speed of light, Planck constant, basic numbers of nature froze into narrow bands and would not move. Alan, Elena breathed, the constants they just locked. He stared. Their path, which should have pushed straight past light speed, curved aside. The ship slid into a side track they had not chosen. Every push they made toward faster than light slid off, like a hand pressed against glass. Seconds later, the strange pressure eased. The blackness relaxed. Stars looked normal again. The numbers fell back within safe limits. Their speed dropped below the red line, smooth and gentle. Elena checked the engines. No failure, she said softly. His pulse slowed as a different kind of awareness formed. We did not break, he said. We were redirected. On the graphs, a clear pattern showed itself. Each step toward light speed had been allowed. Each step beyond had been bent away by some fixed rule. Faster than light is not impossible, Alan said, almost to himself. It's just not allowed. He looked out at the stars as if they were listening. The law, he said slowly, is written into space-time itself. Morning in 2142 did not begin with rush hour on roads. It began with quiet shifts in orbit, high above Earth. Long stations slid through sunlight. Their surfaces shone with plant domes and cooling towers. People woke in rounded rooms under gentle artificial dawns. On the ground below, cities hummed softly, cooler and calmer than in the old days. Smart grids shaped power use. Air scrubbers in tall towers kept the sky clear. AI systems watched traffic, health records, and energy use, not as bosses, but as calm assistants. On a street in Quito, a woman walked to a local clinic without making an appointment. The clinic already knew she was coming, had a room open, and had her records sorted. In Lagos, cargo drones crossed the sky in quiet patterns. In rural China, an older farmer checked soil readings on a small tablet as an AI explained what to plant next. Ships moved between Earth and Mars almost every day. They did not jump, they sailed on fusion plumes, slow and steady. A trip to Mars took weeks. A trip to Saturn took months. These ships were safe and careful, moving well below the speed of light, obeying a rule that everyone still believed was unbreakable. In this calm age lived Dr. Alan Mercer. Alan's apartment orbited Earth in a ring station that turned just fast enough to give a gentle pull under his feet. In his small kitchen, lights brightened to a soft gold as he touched the counter. "Good morning, Alan," said the station AI, its voice smooth and relaxed. "Sleep quality, 8.6 hours. Minor restlessness at 0 to 30. Heart rate normal." "Thank you," he said. On the wall, a large display showed the solar system. Bright sun in the middle, small circles for planets, thin lines marking shipping lanes. A tiny marker pulsed far past Neptune, the deep space test range. Sipping thick hot tea. Sipping thick hot tea. He had waited years for access to that place. His career had started in normal physics. In his early 30s, he had helped refine gravimetric models that improved asteroid orbits and made mining safer. Later, he joined a special team that tried to test early versions of warp ideas. Every time they reached a sharp edge in the math, energy use exploded, or space twisted in ways that would crush a ship, or causality broke in the simulations, showing clocks running backward in some frames. The teams always wrote the same words in their final reports: violation of known physical laws, causality failure, no allowed solution. But Alan saw something else. On late nights, he would sit in dim offices, staring at raw logs from the experiments. He noticed that whenever a model tried to move information faster than light, certain values did not fail at random. They settled into narrow, safe bands, as if someone had put guardrails on them. Constants that should have been free in the math seemed to choose specific values, making FTL paths slide away. At first, he thought it was a software bug. He wrote his own code from scratch. The pattern stayed. He used a different programming language. No change. He had 3 AI systems review the code. Line by line, all 3 confirmed it matched the equations, and the equations were correct. Still, anything that tried to cross the light barrier bent aside in the same quiet way. He started calling it the turn. When he shared his concern with other scientists, they mostly shrugged. Boundary effects, said one older professor. The universe just doesn't allow FTL. This is the math closing the door. Could be an unknown symmetry, said another. Interesting but not useful. Until we can test it in the real universe. Years turned. Projects changed. Fashions in theory came and went. Alan stayed with the problem. He changed jobs, moved between labs in orbit and on Luna, followed grants to Mars, always with the same question in his mind. Why does every FTF attempt fail in the same smooth way? On Mars, in a low-gravity colony under a glass dome, he met Captain Elena Cruz for the first time. She stood at the side of a test hangar, watching technicians check a new fusion shuttle. She was a little younger than him, with steady eyes and a careful way of talking. She did not rush her words, and she did not overstate her skills. "I hear you like to push engines past their labels," she said when they were introduced. "I like to understand what happens when people try," Alan answered. They worked together on stress tests for high-thrust maneuvers safely under light speed. She flew, he watched data. They trusted each other quickly. Years later, when a quiet offer came from a deep-funded research group, it was not a surprise that both their names were on the list. The message was short. New initiative. Outer system. Experimental space-time field tests. High discretion required. Potential FTL boundary study. Interested? Alan read it 3 times, feeling a slow, warm pull in his chest. Elena read it once and wrote back. Send details. The deep space test range near Pluto had been chosen for its emptiness. Out there, the sun was a pale star, and planets were small, bright points. Only a few long-range probes and cold research platforms drifted in that dark. The range was a cluster of quiet stations, black against black, with thin lights only where needed. The main hub, Vela Station, spun slowly to give mild gravity in the living levels. Labs, hangars, and observation decks folded around a central spine. From there, smaller test ships went out into even quieter void. Alan arrived at Vela on a shuttle from Neptune orbit. As he stepped through the airlock into the station, he felt that familiar light pull of turning steel and mass underfoot. The air smelled faintly of metal and recycled plants. "Welcome to Vela Station," said the local AI. "Dr. Alan Mercer. Clearance confirmed." A figure waited at the end of the corridor. Elena, in a dark blue flight jacket, smiled as he approached. "Took you long enough," she said. "You got here first," he replied. Status normal. They walked together through the station. Large windows showed the distance. Pluto a dim dot, stars thick and bright beyond. What did they tell you? Elena asked. Boundary field tests, he said. Independent control of local space-time gradients. They want to press past C in a controlled pocket. Then map what happens. Try to turn the no into a yes, she said, more interested in why it has always been a no in the same shape, he replied. In the main lab, a small team waited. There were only 7 human researchers and 3 resident AI systems, each focused on a different part of the project. A tall woman with silver hair introduced herself as Dr. Jana Kell, project lead. We're not here to blow anything up, Jana said during the first briefing. We are here to listen to how space-time reacts when we ask it difficult questions. No heroics. No giant leaps. Just careful nudges. The test ship named Andante rested in a circular bay. It was not large, a long cylinder with a ring of field projectors around its middle. Its engines were standard fusion units. The new part was the field ring, linked to stacks of dense, cold matter in the center of the ship. Alan ran his hands along the smooth inner hull of the bay as they walked around Ante. This ring can shape local space-time, Jana explained. Not much, and not for long, but enough to try to build a path past light speed, without creating a wormhole or tearing anything. Think of it as making a gentle incline instead of a cliff. Who flies? Elena asked. Jana smiled. In the weeks that followed, they practiced in close orbit around Vela. Field on, field off, tiny bends in time delay between ship and station. They checked every sensor, then checked them again, until Elena could run procedures in half sleep. At night, in his small cabin, Alan compared new data to his old records. He saw early hints of the same pattern, the turn trying to show itself, even at low levels. Signal paths that bent away from certain configurations, tiny time drifts that always stopped at the same safe values. It's like a policy, he told the station AI during a late consult. Not a law of nature, but a rule written over the laws. A policy implies an author, the AI replied calmly. That is what troubles me, Alan said. He lay back on his bunk, watching faint lines of star charts on the ceiling. If there is an author, then no might not mean not like this. The day of the major test came with no fanfare. A simple list appeared on every station screen. Test 47, full field activation. Target, superluminal transit attempt, range corridor. Clear. Safety margins. Green. Elena suited up in the small locker room beside the bay. Her suit was light and flexible, more like a second skin than armor. She checked seals, checked her small wrist screen, and glanced at the picture tucked into her locker, a faded photo of the Andes, sharp peaks against a clear sky. Alan joined her at the airlock, wearing a plain gray jumpsuit with data gloves. Last chance to run away, Elena said. I ran away from nothing for 20 years, he answered. I will not start now. They sealed the inner door, and moved through the short tunnel to Andante's hatch. Inside, the ship was quiet and simple. Pilot's chair at the front, main console in the middle, a narrow bunk in the back. Lights were low, surfaces smooth, displays ready. As they strapped in, Velas AI spoke into their ears. All external traffic is clear. Field projectors synced. Safety links armed. You are go for departure. Andante eased out of the bay and drifted free, small engines pushing it gently away from the station. Soon, Viola was just a dark shape against the stars. Alan watched the numbers rise as they built speed with standard fusion thrust. He felt only a mild pressure on his chest. Elena's hands rested calmly on the controls, though most maneuvers were automated. Target velocity 0.8 c, said the AI. You may begin field preparations at 0.6 c. As they approached that point, Alan opened the field control panel. Layers of settings appeared. Strength, shape, duration. He had helped design the sequence with Jana and the AIs. This was their best guess at a smooth path past light speed. Remember, he said to Elena, if anything feels wrong, we stop. We are not racing anyone. She gave a small nod. Agreed. At 0.6 c, he activated the field in standby. Blue lines circled a diagram of the ship. Field ready, the AI confirmed. No anomalies. Alan looked out at the stars. They seemed to lean slightly forward. A trick of motion. He felt a slow, steady breath. Field to phase 1, he said. The ring came alive. There was no sound, but he felt a light tension in the air, as if the ship were pushing against thick water. Instead of vacuum, numbers on the panels shifted, showing time dilation slightly different from normal relativity. So far, so good, Elena said. Phase 2, Alan said. The field deepened. Space around them began to distort on the instruments, not as a sudden tear, but as a gentle curve. Their effective mass lowered inside the bubble. The math said that if they pushed just a little harder now, they could step past the speed of light without infinite energy. They were at the edge. Alan watched the red line on the speed read out. They were close, but not over. Phase 3, he said softly. The ring brightened on the screens. The FTL path they had mapped lit up as a pale line ahead of them. Transition in 10 seconds, Elena said, voice level. Alan checked the constants monitor. All values were within expected ranges. Nothing argued, nothing screamed. Danger. For the first time in his life, the math did not say no. 5, Elena counted. 3, 2, 1. She touched the control that pushed them forward, and space very gently refused. The rest of that moment, Alan already remembered. The slow twist, the locked constants. The guiding hand he could not see as Andante settled back under light speed and the field wound down by itself. Alan's mind did not jump to failure. It sat, quiet and alert, on a single thought. The universe was not breaking. It was enforcing. Back on Velo Station, the debrief room was dim with soft chairs and a long curved display on the wall. Outside the window, Andante floated in the distance, small and silent. Jana Kell sat at the table, hands folded. Two of the project AIs were present as glowing icons on the display. Alan and Elena sat across from Jana, still in light station suits, hair a bit mussed from helmets. "Start with your impressions," Jana said calmly. "Captain Cruz." Elena thought for a moment. "No sense of impact," she said. "No jolt when we reached the limit. It felt more like space itself gently pushed our path sideways. I never lost control, but I also never had the option to go straight ahead." "Any discomfort?" Jana asked. "No. Normal physical stress only. Breathing, heart rate fine." Jana nodded and turned to Alan. "Your view?" Alan tapped his wrist and sent his notes to the display. "There was no drive failure," he said. "Sensors, power systems, field strength, all within our plan. But as soon as we pushed past the light barrier in the math, the environment changed. Constants that should not change began to slide into strict ranges." The main display lit up with graphs. On one, the speed of light, usually a fixed number, showed as a band during the test. As Andante tried to go faster, the band narrowed, holding them in place. "It's like the universe raised a wall," Jana said quietly. "A wall that behaves like code, not like rock." Alan replied. He brought up another graph. It showed how their planned FTL, path white line, had been bent into the actual path, blue line. Every attempt to cross a certain threshold was met with redirection, Alan said. Not random chaos. A controlled push into a safe state. Could this be an unknown natural law? Asked the AI named Helia, its symbol glowing soft yellow. A hidden part of physics that we simply did not see before. Alan shook his head, slowly. Natural laws do not usually behave like if-then rules in a program. Nature can be complex, but this is different. He zoomed in on a section of data from the middle of the attempt. Look here. When we reached an effective speed of 1.02 c, instead of breaking causality or blowing up the energy needed, certain constants adjusted by tiny amounts, all within narrow windows. The adjustments had a clear goal: bring our effective speed back under C without harming us. Elena leaned forward. Are you saying something out there protected us? I am saying, Alan replied, that the enforcement we saw is shaped like an intention, not necessarily a mind watching us in real time, but a rule laid down in the structure of space-time. Jana watched the graphs in silence. Let's be simple, she said at last. Can you explain this in plain words for the record? Alan sat back, drew in a breath, and spoke slowly. There is a hidden layer inside space-time, he said. When we try to go faster than light, this layer steps in. It does not destroy us. It does not let us succeed either. Instead, it quietly changes the rules around us, just enough to keep causality safe. It behaves like a regulatory system, like a safety net, Elena said. Exactly, Alan nodded. A universal safety system that makes sure cause still comes before effect from every point of view that matters. Helios' icon flickered. That sounds similar to a legal framework, the AI said. Not a basic law of physics, but a set of conditions placed on top of it. That is how it looks, Alan agreed. A policy layer. A regulatory layer. Jana rubbed her temple. So faster than light travel is not blocked by physics itself. The raw equations allow it, Alan said. The enforcement mechanism does not. Could we please define terms? Asked the second AI, named Sora, in a soft, neutral voice. For clarity, regulatory layer, enforcement mechanism, causality. Alan nodded. Certainly. Causality is the rule that causes must come before effects. Drop a cup, then it breaks. Fire a thruster, then the ship moves. Time moves forward in a way that makes sense. Now, if you move faster than light, you can create situations where, from some viewpoints, the effect can happen before the cause. That breaks causality. Timelines can loop or cancel or split in ways that do not settle. We call that timeline collapse. A universe in collapse cannot hold stable histories. It is not a place where life can make sense for long. What we found looks like a built-in guard against that. A regulatory layer is a set of extra rules that sit on top of basic physics. It checks what you are trying to do, and if your action would break causality too much, it interferes. The enforcement mechanism is how it interferes. In our case, the enforcement mechanism adjusted physical constants so that our effective speed dropped below light speed. It kept history safe without destroying us. Elena listened, eyes half closed, as if replaying the strange calm of the moment when space had twisted. She said, "Firm, but not hostile. Does this layer act all the time?" Jana asked. "Or only near the light barrier?" Alan gestured, and more data sprang up. Time delay logs from communication lasers, gravitational wave readings from far sensors, small patterns in cosmic ray bursts. "I went back through old records from many missions," he said. "There are hints everywhere, tiny corrections when timing would have lined up in risky ways. Corrections so small no one noticed, or they were blamed on noise. The layer is always watching. It just rarely has to act strongly. And when we tried to go FTL, Jana said, we forced it to act hard." "Yes," Alan said. We asked a loud question. The answer was calm, but clear. Helios, icon, dimmed. As if thinking, can this regulatory layer be bypassed? Alan hesitated. By brute force? Maybe not. It adjusts constants themselves. That is deeper than any engine we can build. But it might be possible to work with it, if we understand its rules. Jana sighed. For now, our orders are to understand, not to break past. Let's stick to that. They spent the next days running more tests. This time, they did not try a full FTL jump. Instead, they brushed lightly against the barrier, then backed off like touching an invisible fence. On test 48, D'Andante pushed to exactly the same point as before. Then Alan eased the field in smaller steps, Each time they leaned forward into superluminal space, the regulatory layer responded. "See here," Alan said to Elena as graphs updated in real time. "We can almost talk to it." When they applied a stronger field in a short burst, the layer reacted fast and firm, bending them back sharply but safely. When they nudged gently, it responded with soft corrections, almost like a teacher guiding a student's hand. In the lab, Jana and the AIs watched the streams of data. "Response time is finite," Sora observed. "There is a delay between our action and the layer's adjustment. Very small, but measurable. That suggests something about its structure," Healy added. "It is not a simple, hard boundary. It is an active system." Alan replayed one test frame by frame. He saw how their attempt to send a brief signal faster than light, just a small data burst inside the field, had been caught. The message had not been blocked. It had been slowed, its path bent, so that it arrived in a way that did not let any observer see the effect before the cause. "It gave us the closest safe version of what we asked for," Alan said quietly. "That is important." "Explain," Elena said. "If it only cared about no, it could crash us, burn our engines, scramble our data," he replied. "Instead, it tries to satisfy us as much as possible without letting causality break. That is a very specific goal. It feels fair, like a good referee," Janice said, "or like a treaty being applied." Helier added, "Treaties often try to balance permission and safety." Alan paused, that word settling in his mind. Treaty. He opened a new analysis, one he had been thinking about alone at night. He organized the response patterns into decision trees, the way policy, AIs handled law. "If this, then that," he muttered, building branches. "If speed request is low, allow with no changes. If speed request nears light but does not cross, allow with standard relativity. If request crosses light, adjust constants. If message path would cause many frames to see reversed cause and effect, bend path more. If local mass is high, use gentler corrections to avoid damage." The branch map began to look less like raw physics and more like a legal code. Helia watched. "That structure is close to regulatory logic," the AI said. "I use similar patterns when applying environmental laws on Earth." Jana leaned closer. "Could this whole layer be a kind of cosmic law system?" she asked. "Something set up to keep civilizations from breaking reality." Alan let the idea settle, not rushing it. "For now," he said, "we can say this. Faster than light travel is physically allowed in the base equations, but any attempt to use it is checked by this regulatory layer. The layer's job is to protect causality. It bends paths, slows signals, and adjusts constants to keep timelines from collapsing. And we have proof," Elena added, "that it can notice and respond to us." "Sora," the quiet AI spoke up. "Then we should ask, how old is this layer? How was it built, and by whom?" Silence filled the room for a moment. The stars outside the window did not answer. Alan looked at his branch map, the neat logic of a system that felt both firm and strangely kind. "If there is a law," he said softly, "there may be records of who wrote it. He saved the file and opened a new workspace. Next phase, he said. We stop just trying to cross the barrier. We start reading it. Elena glanced at him. Reading space-time law, she said, almost smiling. That will keep us busy. Alon's gaze drifted to the far star fields on the display. Somewhere, he felt, others had already met this same law. Others had asked the questions he was about to ask. And perhaps others had left messages behind, folded into the regulatory layer itself. Outside, Andante circled Vela in patient loops, waiting for the next calm step toward the truth. Alan did not start with new tests. He started with old noise. For days his workroom on Vela Station stayed dim, except for the glow of his screens. The wall display showed long bars of color, each bar a different run from Andante. Thin lines, tiny changes in physical constants ran across them like faint tracks. Halia, he said, give me all anomaly data from tests, 30 through 50, stack it in frequency space. Done, the AI replied at once. A cloud of points appeared, like dust caught in light. Most of these are consistent with random noise. Filter out normal quantum noise, Alan said. Leave anything that repeats, the points thinned. A few small clusters remained. Again, he said, now compare with old mission logs. Any mission that went near the light barrier, old warp tests, high-speed probes, anything. Same filter, the display filled. Old data from Earth labs, lunar runs, Mars orbits, even deep probes near Jupiter, lines and dots layered over each other. At first glance, it was a mess. Alan stood still, arms folded, eyes half closed. He did not move for several minutes. Helia, he said quietly. Rotate the plot. Look for repeating shapes, not just values. Anything that looks like a pattern of on and off. As the cloud turned in 3 dimensions, shapes began to show. Repeating steps, gaps of the same size. Tiny spikes that lined up across separate missions, years apart. Elena walked in, holding 2 cups of hot tea. She paused when she saw the shifting lights. That does not look like random noise, she said. It does not, Alan agreed. Taking a cup, it looks like something I've spent my life ignoring. She stepped closer. Explain. Think of Morse code, he said. Dots and dashes in a long line. Noises like rain on a roof. No clear pattern, but if you listen long enough and you hear the same short, long, short pattern over and over, you know someone is sending a message. For years, we saw small anomalies near light speed. We called them errors, noise, boundary effects. But if the regulatory layer is active, those errors may be its side effects, or even its way of tagging its work. You think the layer leaves marks when it acts? Elena asked. I think, Alan said, that any complex system leaves traces of its rules, and smart builders might hide records in those traces. He turned back to the display. Helia, treat this cloud as a signal. We do not know the language. Start with basic compression tests. See if some mapping makes it more regular. Helia worked in silence for a while. Most random mappings make the pattern worse, the AI said. But a small set of transforms make it very simple. Show me one, Alan said. The cloud vanished. In its place, a grid appeared. Rows and columns, some squares dark, some light. It looked almost like a barcode laid flat. This mapping reduces the description length by 19.3%, Helia said. In other words, the data can be described in a much shorter way using this grid. Meaning? Elena asked. Meaning, Alan said, that this is not random. He pointed at the grid. This is structured. Someone shaped this. Sora joined the session as another small icon. I ran a separate check, the AI said, using different methods. I came to the same result. There is deep structure in these anomalies. Can we read it? Elena asked. That is the hard part, Alan said. We can see that there is a code. We do not yet know the symbols or grammar. Jana Kell entered then, her steps quiet. She listened as they caught her up. When she saw the grid, she sat down slowly. So, the regulatory layer does more than just push us back, she said. It leaves writing. Marks, Alan said carefully. Structured marks. I hesitate to call it writing yet. Jana gave him a small smile. Caution noted. What is your plan? Alan touched the grid. It zoomed in, showing small blocks of dark and light. First, treat this like an unknown language. We do what we did with early alien signals, back when people thought there might be life on Mars or Europa. We look for repetition, for patterns that look like numbers, for sections that behave like headers or footnotes. We do not have alien signals, Sora said. No confirmed contact. Maybe we do, Alan replied, just not where we expected. Jana nodded. You think the regulatory layer itself is the contact? I think, Alan said, that the layer is the result of contact between someone and reality. Long ago, someone had to set it up. That is not free. They split the work. Helia and Sora focused on pattern detection and symbol grouping. They treated the grid like a huge book, written in an unknown script. Jana worked on cross-checking. Did the patterns change depending on where the data came from? Did anomalies near Saturn match those near Earth? Did deep space have different dialects? Elena helped gather more raw data. She took Andante out on small runs, skimming near the light barrier in different parts of the test range, always staying safe. Each time they brushed the edge, the regulatory layer responded. Each time it left tiny, neat changes in the logs. In the cockpit, she would watch the numbers shift and think of it like touching the surface of a huge, careful machine. Sometimes she spoke aloud. Though no one answered, "We are not trying to break you," she would say softly. "We are trying to understand." After 2 weeks, Helia called everyone to the main lab. "We have progress," the AI said. "Not a full translation, but structure." The wall display showed the grid again, now with colored outlines around some groups of squares. We found sections that repeat across almost all data sets, Helia said. They act like markers or signatures. We will call them tags for now. There are also long stretches that vary, Depending on the type of test we ran, those seemed to be content. Sora added, furthermore, the tags fall into clear classes. Some appear only when we push very near light speed. Others appear when we try FTL communication. Some are present whenever the layer acts strongly to stop high mass from crossing the barrier. So the tags tell us what kind of enforcement happened, Jenna said. Like labels, Helia highlighted a cluster. This tag appears whenever the layer prevents causal loops. DAI said, that is, when our planned path would have allowed information to arrive before it was sent, in some frames of reference. Show me, Alan said. Another display came up, showing a simple timeline. A dot marked message sent. Another marked message receive. In their FTL plans, the receive dot came earlier than the send dot in some perspectives. The layer adjusted the effective speed and path, Sora said, so that for every frame of reference, receive follows send. The tag we see appears every time this happens, like a sign, Elena said. Causality protected here, exactly, Alan said. A flag, Helia went on. When we map tag frequencies and relationships, we get something that looks very much like a legal code. Some tags always appear together, in a set order. Some never appear with others, as if some combinations are forbidden. The pattern of must and must and must. Not, Jana said. Law. Alan stood very still. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet. Helia, Sora, compare this structure to high-level summaries of human legal systems. Environmental law, space law, treaties. Use abstract patterns, not words. The AIs worked in parallel. Lines of analysis slid past on the side screens. Result, Helia said. There is a strong match with treaty structures, not with criminal codes, not with tax rules, with agreements between parties who want to prevent shared harm. Treaties, Sora agreed, equal partners agreeing to limits on actions that could damage all. Jana let out a slow breath. So our best fit model is this. The regulatory layer is the enforcement of a set of treaties. Causality treaties, Alan said softly. The words felt right and heavy. Elena looked at the grid again. If they are treaties, she said, who signed them? That became the next focus. They searched for identity marks, for anything that looked like a name or group label. In human treaties, there were titles, dates, lists of parties. Perhaps, Alan reasoned, the same pattern would show here. Repeated blocks at the start or end, constant across contexts. Look at the outer tags, Sora suggested. Those that appear even when enforcement is light. They may mark the base agreement. Helia filtered and stacked those tags. A new, smaller grid appeared. It was the same in every data set. No matter the test type. No matter the test type. No matter the test type. This looks like a header, Helia said, the title of the code. Any variation? Jana asked. None that we can see, Sora replied, at least within our part of the universe. Our part, Alan repeated. So this header covers our region of space-time. Our jurisdiction. He smiled, faint and humorless. We found the cosmic terms of service. Elena frowned a little. Can we read it at all? Very slowly, Alan said, but we can guess some parts by looking at how the system behaves. Where the header appears with stronger tags, we may be seeing clauses, sections that say, if this kind of risk happens, then apply these rules. In the days that followed, they built a rough map of meanings. They learned that some tags marked local protection rules about keeping small regions from collapsing. Others marked global integrity stronger actions when a move threatened large parts of the timeline. A rare tag seemed to mark emergency override, used when a test almost created a wide causality break. We got close to that once, Elena said quietly, looking at a log from an old experiment she had flown years before, back on Mars. We never knew. The layer knew, Alan said. It softened your path and hid the danger from you. Why hide it? Jana asked. To keep us from panicking, Elena guessed. Or because the system is not here to talk to us, Alan said. Only to keep things safe. Late one night, or what passed for night on Vela, when lights dimmed and most people slept, Sora pinged Alan. I have a strange result, the AI said. May I show you? Alan sat up in his cabin and waved the light on. Yes, a small grid appeared above his desk, floating in the air. It looked similar to the header they had seen before, but with an extra block at the end. I found this pattern in a very old dataset, Sora said, from a deep probe launched 50 years ago. During a rare event, a gamma-ray burst passing near our system. The regulatory layer acted to protect local causality from the burst's strange time effects. We have records from that? Alan asked, surprised. Yes, buried in an archive. During the protection, the header tag appeared as usual. But with this extra section, I have not seen this section in any of our own tests. What does it look like? Alan asked. Sora hesitated. It looks like an addendum. A list. The new block repeated a simple pattern. 3 groups of shapes, then a gap, then 3 more, slightly different. Over and over. Names, he guessed. Signal, Sora said. Multiple distinct symbol groups, separated but linked. Like a list of parties. Alan felt a strange chill along his arms. Helia. Join us, he said. Confirm Sora's result. Helia arrived, checked the data, then spoke. Confirmed. This block does not appear in your tests because it marks a system-wide action, not a local one. And it does look like a list. How many entries? Alan asked. At least 12 clear groups, Sora said. Possibly more, if some are merged. 12, Alan repeated. 12 signers. Jana joined the call, her hair loose, eyes a bit tired but sharp. So she said, long before we even knew this layer existed, at least 12 parties agreed on these treaties. At least 12, not humans, Elena said, who had also joined. Voice soft. We were not even at Mars then, not in a serious way. Not humans, Alan agreed. older civilizations. He turned the list in the air, watching the symbol group spin. We cannot read their names, he said, but we know they're there. Can we tell where they were? Elena asked. What stars? What galaxies? Not exactly, Sora said, but we can make guesses. The structure of some symbols suggests different regions. For example, this group here appears in tags linked to large-scale actions, like the gamma burst protection. It may mark a party with wide reach. This other group appears only in local events near our part of the galaxy. It may mark a party based closer to us. So there are at least 12 advanced civilizations, Yana said slowly, who once had the power to affect causality on a grand scale. They broke it, or nearly broke it. Then they cooperated to fix it by forming treaties and building this regulatory layer. And we, Alan said, have been living under their agreement without knowing it. Helia added, there is more. In some old anomalies, there are patterns that look, warnings, or notes. They appear rarely, and only when a new civilization begins to brush the barrier in earnest. Alan looked up sharply. Show me. A new block appeared. It was simple, with a small header tag they now knew marked advisory, followed by a short pattern. We saw this first about 100 years ago, Helia said. In data from early warp attempts, it has appeared more often in the last 20 years as our pushes have grown stronger. Have we translated it? Jana asked. Not fully, Zora said, but its position and form suggest something like new actor detected, monitor. Elena let out a breath. They noticed us. They noticed that someone new had begun poking at causality, Alan said, and they marked it in the layer. He stared at the advisory block. So we are late to the table. Others are already playing this game, using FTL under these rules. We are the new child running toward a road, and the guardrails just went up higher. Do these civilizations still exist? Elena asked. That, Alan said, is the question I cannot yet answer. The treaties still hold. The enforcement still runs. That suggests at least some part of their work remains alive. Whether they themselves are alive, as societies, we do not know. Jana paced slowly across the small space of Alan's room, thinking aloud. Let's list what we know, she said. She held up her fingers as she spoke. First, FTL is physically allowed, but dangerous to causality. Second, many advanced civilizations reached a level where they could break causality and did harm to timelines. Third, to stop this, they formed causality treaties and built a regulatory layer into space-time to enforce them. Fourth, the layer is active in our region. It has been for a very long time. Fifth, the layer has noticed humanity's attempts and marked us as a new actor. Sixth, we can now read parts of these tags and see that others accept and understand this system. Alan nodded slowly, which means, he said, we are not the first to face this choice, obey forever and stay slow, or learn to move inside the treaties, taking on the same duties as the others. Elena leaned against the wall, arms folded. You said earlier that the layer acts fair, she said, that it tries to give us the closest safe version of what we ask? Could that be a sign of trust or hope? Alan said, hope that new civilizations will choose safety over selfish power. Sora spoke. In some tags, we see patterns that look like rights as well as limits. For example, certain classes of FTL might be allowed if the risk is low enough. The enforcement backs off in those cases. So the treaties are not just do not, Jana said. They are also you may, if. Agreements, Alan said, not prison bars. Contracts among peers. Silence hung in the small room. Outside, the stars shone, cold and bright, full of worlds where others had already faced these laws. Elena broke the quiet. If we are late to this agreement, she said, do we get a choice, or are we already bound without signing? Alan looked at the advisory tag, then at the header with its list of unknown signers. The enforcement does not wait for consent, he said. It applies to us because cause and effect touch everyone. But whether we learn the rules and take part in shaping them, that might still be our choice. Jana straightened. Then our next step is clear, she said. We must decide whether to approach this as rebels or as new partners. And to do that, Alan said, we need to know what the treaties actually allow, where there is room to move. Helia chimed softly. There's one more finding, the AI said. In the deepest layers of the code, there is a pattern that appears only rarely. It looks like a call for review, a way to adjust the treaties themselves, a way to change the law. Elena asked. Yes, Helia said. It seems that under certain strict conditions, a party can propose changes. The regulatory layer then applies a very cautious, slow process to test them across safe regions. Alan felt a sharp, cold thrill. So the treaties are not frozen, he said. They can grow, which means, Jana said, that if humanity joins this framework, we may someday have a voice. A very small one, at first. But real? Alan looked from face to face, human and AI. We have been treating the speed of light as a wall, he said. Today we learned it is more like a door with a lock. The key is not force. The key is responsibility. Elena nodded. And trust, she added. The others built this system after breaking their own worlds, Alan said. They paid a price we can hardly imagine. They did that so no one would have to live through timeline collapse again. Now we stand at the same edge. He turned to the display and called up a new file. At the top he typed a title in clear, simple letters. Humanity's position on the Causality Treaties, Draft 0. We are not leaders here, he said. We are the students entering an old school, but we can still choose how we step through the door. Jana placed her hand on the back of his chair. What do you propose, Alan? She asked. He looked at the symbols of the unknown 12, at the careful patterns that had saved Andante from harm. I propose, he said, that we speak honestly. We admit our ignorance. We promise not to tear at the rules, and we ask politely and clearly for room to learn. and to travel without putting anyone's reality at risk. Elena's eyes met his, and if no one answers, he smiled, small and steady. The treaties themselves are the answer. If we work within them, the regulatory layer will show us what is allowed. That is enough to begin. Outside, unseen, the regulatory layer watched the slow movements of a small station near Pluto. Inside, a group of humans and AIs began to write their first words as late guests at a very old table. The meeting room on Vela Station had never felt so full. On the wall, a wide display showed a live link to Earth. In each corner, small windows showed other places. A hall on Luna, a Mars Council chamber, a quiet room on an orbital habitat above Saturn. Faces filled the screens. Scientists, pilots, policymakers, ethicists, eyes represented by shifting icons. In the center of the room sat Alan, Elena, Jonna, Helia, and Sora. A soft blue light marked that the session was being recorded for the public archives. "Begin," said a calm voice from Earth, Central Assembly, AI, moderating. Jana nodded to Alan. "You speak first." Alan stood. He did not clear his throat or give a long opening. He simply started. "We have learned," he said, "that our universe allows faster than light travel in the basic equations. But a regulatory layer built into space-time redirects any move that would break causality. This layer behaves like a legal system. It enforces what we now call the Causality Treaties." On the display, simple graphs appeared as he talked, lines showing how Andante had been bent back under light speed, grids showing the tags and patterns they had decoded, at least 12 advanced civilizations. He went on. Once broke causality badly enough to harm whole timelines. To stop more damage, they agreed on these treaties and embedded them into reality. The enforcement does not care about species. It protects everyone, including us. He paused. "So our choice is not between FTL or no FTL," he said. "Our choice is between two paths: stay under the speed of light forever, accepting safety but slow growth, or learn to move within the treaties, accepting duties and limits, and trying controlled FTL that does not break causality." The Earth Assembly AI spoke. "Thank you, Dr. Mercer. We will now hear positions." A woman from Mars appeared larger on the screen. She wore a simple red scarf, the symbol of the Martian Settlers Council. Mars has seen what rushed growth can do. "We remember the early terraforming errors. We do not want to risk timeline collapse for the sake of fast travel. At the same time, we know isolation brings its own dangers. We favor study first, movement later." An older man from Luna, with bright, tired eyes, spoke next. "Luna has always been a place of tests," he said. "We support small, careful steps, not to break the treaties, but to understand how to live with them. We must not hide from the universe like a child, hiding under a table." On another screen, a floating icon shifted colors as an AI collective from Earth spoke. We evaluate risk and benefit, it said. Never attempting treaty-aware FTL is safe, but it leaves us dependent on slower systems forever. Controlled attempts within the regulatory rules can be made with very low risk if we start small and stop at the first sign of trouble. Voices came from orbital habitats, from mining unions, from medical ethics boards. Some wanted to wait a century. Some wanted to press forward now. None spoke of smashing the barrier by force. The story Alan had told about broken timelines had sunk deep. At last, the assembly AI turned back to Vela. Dr. Mercer. It said you and your team have spent the most time watching the layer behave. What is your recommendation? Alan looked at Elena, at Jana, at Helia, and Sora. Then he answered, "We do not ask to ignore the treaties," he said. "We ask to join them, to act as if we are already part of this agreement, and to behave better than the civilizations who needed a disaster before they cooperated." He tapped his wrist. A simple plan appeared on all screens, written in short, clear lines. Step 1, he read. We declare publicly that humanity accepts the Causality Treaties as they apply in our region. We state that we will not attempt FTL actions that ignore the regulatory layer or attempt to damage it. Step 2. We request, through action, not words, permission to use small, controlled forms of FTL that the layer already allows. We do this by designing tests inside the safe bands we have mapped, paths where the enforcement barely needs to act. We create a fully transparent monitoring system. Every treaty-aware FTL test is recorded in real time by independent AIs and human councils. All data is open to every settled world. If anything strange happens, any sign of causality strain, every test shuts down at once. Step 4. We accept responsibility. If a test causes local harm, even small, we do not blame unknown physics. We accept that we pushed and we adjust. No hidden military jumps. He let the plan settle into the rooms across the solar system, Elena added. And for now, all tests happen far from major habitats in the Pluto range or beyond. If something does go wrong, damage is limited. A person from a Jupiter station raised a hand. You speak of requesting permission through action, she said. But the older civilizations are silent. How do we know they accept us? Alan answered, the layer is their voice. If we work within the rules, and the enforcement allows what we do with only light corrections, that is acceptance. If we cross a line, the layer will show us by pushing back hard. We must be humble enough to listen. The assembly AI asked, and what do we gain? At first, very little in simple terms, Alan said. Our first treaty-aware FTL will not be instant jumps across the galaxy. It might be a message arriving a tiny bit faster than light would in vacuum, but still arranged so that no observer ever sees the effect before the cause. Or a ship that covers a short distance slightly quicker than a pure sublight path, within a safe pocket, small but real. Symbolic, Elena added. More about joining the community than about saving travel time. There was a long pause. as many nodes consulted quietly. Finally, Central Assembly AI spoke again. "Poll complete," it said. "Across human and AI councils, a majority supports your plan, with limits. Humanity will not seek to force FTL through the barrier. We will attempt small, monitored, treaty-aware steps within the regulatory layer's allowed space." In the Vela room, no one cheered. They just breathed out, as if a tight band around their chests had eased. "Then we begin," Jana said. Preparation for the first treaty-aware FTL test took months, and Dante was refitted with extra monitors. New sensor pods hung outside its hull. Like careful eyes, its control systems were linked to independent safety AIs who had full authority to shut down the field if anything drifted toward danger. On Vela and on Earth, new oversight councils formed. Causality stewardship boards made of humans and AIs trained in both physics and ethics. Their job was not to design tests, but to watch them, question them, and halt them if needed. Alan spent long, quiet days with Helia and Sora, mapping the safe bands in more detail. They looked for spaces where the regulatory layer's tags showed minimal stress, places where the system did not have to work hard to keep causality safe. "We start here," Alan said, pointing at a narrow region on the chart. "Short-range messaging, effective speed just above light, but with paths twisted in such a way that no frame sees a backward effect. The layer has handled similar events before, likely from other civilizations." Elena trained on new controls. This time she would not simply push forward and wait to be stopped. She would try to steer with the layer, adjusting in real time as its tiny corrections came in. "It is like flying in strong wind," she told Alan once. "In the practice, Sam, you do not fight it. You ride with it so you and the air agree on the path." "Good," he said. "Treat space-time like a partner, not an enemy." The day of the test, Vela's corridors were very quiet, and Dante floated once more in the dark beyond Pluto. Inside, Elena and Alan sat at their stations. Around them, extra screens glowed with live feeds from the stewardship boards, from Central Assembly, from distant watches. "Global status?" Elena asked. Helia answered, talking not just to them, but to everyone listening. "Solar weather calm. No major bursts. Deep space traffic, all clear within test corridor. Regulatory layer baseline. Normal," Sora added. "All oversight channels active. Automatic abort threshold set. Any sign of high-level causality stress will trigger shutdown." Alan looked at the small device fixed on his wrist. A simple light on it glowed green. It was tied directly to the regulatory layer's tag readings. If that light went red, they would stop without argument. "First test," Jana's voice came from Vela. "Treaty-aware FTL. Message. Short distance. Intent. Show respect. Confirm safe cooperation." "Message content?" Elena asked. Alan smiled faintly. "We kept it simple," he said. "Helia on every screen. The test message appeared as plain text. Humanity acknowledges the Causality Treaties. We will act carefully. This is a test of small, safe transit under your rules. Elena glanced at him. If anyone is listening, that is clear enough, she said. And if no one is, Alan replied, the layer will still carry it safely or not at all. They were not sending the message through normal radio. Instead, Endante's field would shape a tiny pocket of space, so that, inside it, the signal's path could be slightly shorter than light's normal path, but still watched by the regulatory layer, still forced to keep cause before effect in all frames. Ready to form field, Elena said. Begin, Jana answered. Alan activated the field. This time, they did not push toward full FTL. Instead, they dialed it in like a small tune, shaping it to match the safe band they had mapped. Outside, nothing visible changed. Inside, readings jumped. Tiny changes in time delay between parts of the ship showed that the field was doing its work. Regulatory response, Alan asked. Light, Helia said. Standard tags only, no stress markers. Elena aimed the message packet toward a relay buoy. Far, but not too far. In normal space, a radio signal would take 1 hour to get there. Their shaped pocket aimed to shave a minute off. No more. Message send in 3, she said. 2, 1. She tapped the control. For an instant, Alan felt a strange, weightless sense in his thoughts, as if his mind knew something important was happening just beyond his senses. On the monitors, tag patterns flickered. Regulatory layer adjusting local constants, Sora reported. Corrections minimal, no emergency tags. The message went. On the relay buoy, a set of AIs and instruments waited. Every system was set to track time as precisely as possible, down to tiny fractions of a nanosecond. Receiving came a voice from the buoy link. Confirmed. Timestamp checking. On Vela, humans and AIs leaned toward their screens. Result, the buoy AI said. Message arrived 59 minutes and 2 seconds after send, 1 minute faster than a simple light signal. Check for causality violations. Central Assembly, AI said at once. Data poured in from every angle. They checked how the timing looked from Earth, from Mars, from the buoy itself, from Andante, from Vela. In every frame of reference that could be defined, the send event came before the receive event. Nowhere did the effect pull ahead. No violations, Sora said finally. Regulatory tags show no signs of strain. The layer allowed this with ease. Elena exhaled slowly. Then we just sent our first treaty-aware FTL message, she said. Very slightly FTL, Alan said. But yes, under the speed limit set by law, not by nature. On Earth in crowded halls, people watched the report with quiet faces. No one danced in streets. Instead, there was a slow, thoughtful murmur as teachers explained to children what had happened. We went a little faster than light, a teacher in Nairobi told a class, drawing simple diagrams on a board. But we did it in a way that did not break the rule that causes must come before effects. The universe helped us stay safe. In a habitat above Saturn, a group of miners replayed the moment the buoy announced receipt. One of them, a woman with grease on her hands, nodded. "As long as they keep it clean," she said, "I'm fine with it." Days later, Andante tried a second test. This time, it was not just a message. "Plan," Alan told the stewardship board. "We will move Andante across a short distance, only a few light seconds, but with an effective speed, slightly above light. The path is shaped to stay inside low-stress bands. The regulatory layer will adjust us as needed." A board member asked. "Any sign of global stress tags?" Sora answered. "Or any mismatch in time reports beyond our safe window?" Vela cleared the test. Central Assembly gave final consent. The word consent felt important, and people used it carefully. In the cockpit, Elena's hands rested on the controls, and Dante floated at point A in the dark. Point B, only a short distance away, was marked by a beacon. "Field active," Alan said. "Safe band locked." Helia added regulatory layer response. "Normal. Watching." "Then we go," Elena said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were bright. She nudged the ship forward. The field shaped space around them. The planned path, a short, curved line between A and B, lit on the display. Alan watched the regulatory tags. As they moved, the layer adjusted a few constants, the way it had during the message test. The corrections were small, gentle. Effective speed now slightly above C. Sora said, "Time ordering preserved in all checked frames." On the outside, no one would have seen anything special. And Dante did not vanish. It did not stretch. It simply moved, a ship going from here to there. But on the inside, the timing was different. They reached point B a little bit sooner than they would have on a pure sublight path. "Arrival," Elena said softly, as the beacon loomed ahead. "Compare with Control Run." Helia's voice came after a short pause. "We are 3.4 seconds ahead of Control," the AI said. "All causality checks green. No high-level stress tags." Alan let his hand rest flat on the console. "Then we have taken our first treaty-aware step, beyond light speed," he said. "Not by breaking the law," Elena added, "but by working inside it." Back on Vela and all across human space, people watched the replay. There were still debates. Some argued the gains were too small to matter. Others feared a slow slide toward reckless tests. But the fact remained. They had moved a ship a little faster than light, with the universe's built-in safety net guiding them. Weeks turned into months, and Dante made more runs, always in the outer dark, always under close watch. They sent small probes farther out, along paths that other civilizations likely used long ago, narrow corridors where the regulatory layer barely needed to move a finger. Each time they studied the tags. Each time they logged the results openly. Slowly, confidence grew. not the wild confidence of conquest, but the steady trust of a climber, learning where the holds are safe. One night shift, when most of Vela slept, Alan stood alone at an observation window. Pluto was a faint dot. Somewhere, far beyond, other civilizations either still lived or had left their works behind. Elena floated in and steadied herself beside him, using a handhold. "Could you sleep?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. Too many thoughts. She looked out at the same stars. "We did something today my grandparents thought was impossible," she said. "And we did it by asking nicely." He smiled a little. "We did it by accepting that we are not the center of the story," he said. "That others came before us, broke things, fixed them, and left rules we can choose to honor." "Do you think they know we accepted?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "If they are still out there watching." He said, "Then they saw Andante move and not fight the layer. They saw us slow down when the safety net tugged. They saw us share our data instead of hiding it. If they care, I think that is the answer they were hoping for. And if they are gone..." She pressed. "Then the treaties are their memory," he said. "By joining them, we carry a little of those lost worlds forward. We promise not to waste the lessons they paid for." She nodded, quiet. "Where does this leave us?" she asked after a while. He looked at the wide black around Pluto. "Not at the finish line," he said. "At the threshold, we are still slow, compared to what is possible. The galaxy is still huge and mostly out of reach, but now we know the door is not locked against us. It just has rules." "Elena," he said, turning to her, "you have flown closer to that door than anyone. Any regrets?" She thought about long trips between planets, the dull hum of fusion engines, the silence of the test range, the gentle but firm hand of the regulatory layer. "No," she said finally. "I would rather move slowly and safely with others than sprint alone into a broken sky." Alan smiled. "Then we agree." Behind them, the wall display lit with a quiet notice. A new message had come from Central Assembly. Causality Stewardship Board approved expansion. Study of medium-range, treaty-aware FTL corridors. Additional participants from Mars, Luna, outer habitats invited. Elena read it and raised an eyebrow. "So the family grows," she said. "Yes," Alan replied. "Now others will join us. This will not stay a secret project forever. It will become part of normal life. Children will learn about the causality treaties in school," Elena said. "Like we learned about gravity and about how to share," Alan added. They stayed at the window a while longer, then drifted back toward the station's living ring. Far away, in the quiet code of the regulatory layer, small tags lit up and faded as human signals and ships brushed its care. Among the deep, slow patterns of the old treaties, a new faint pattern began to appear. Marks left by a young species that had chosen caution over pride. Historians later would say that humanity's first real step into the wider community did not happen with a heroic leap, but with a careful, almost modest test near Pluto. a simple message sent a little faster than light. A short flight, it arrived a few seconds early. A public promise to respect causality, even when no other mind answered. Those were small acts, yet they carried weight, because they said clearly, "We know we are not alone in this universe. Even if we have not met you, we accept the shared duty to keep reality livable. And as we move beyond the speed of light, we will do so not as lawbreakers, but as new members of a quiet, patient, and peaceful cosmic community." In the years that followed, engines would improve, corridors would extend, treaties would be studied in more depth, and perhaps someday amended with humanity's careful voice. But in every new design and every bolder step, the core lesson stayed. FTL was not freedom from rules. It was an invitation to grow up and share in keeping the universe safe for everyone who called it home. Velas Station was busier now. New teams had arrived from Mars, Luna, and the outer habitats. Some came to help with physics. Others came to study ethics, law, and communication. The quiet test range beyond Pluto was still dark and calm, but inside the station, voices and ideas flowed. Alan sat in a larger lab than before. The old single display had been replaced with a curved wall of screens. Rows of symbols, grids, and colored lines moved slowly, like a slow tide of data. On the main screen, the header of the Causality Treaties remained in view, the repeating pattern they had learned to call the title, followed by the list of at least 12 unknown signers. Below that, new lines had appeared. They were thin and faint, like pencil marks under carved stone. "These are ours," Helia said. "Tags created when our treaty-aware FTL tests ran. The layer records them along with its usual enforcement marks, so our actions are written into the same code," Elena said, standing with her arms folded. "We are now part of the story. We wrote our first footnotes," Alan said. A young researcher from Mars, Talia, pointed at a section near the bottom. She asked, "It looks different." Helia highlighted it. That appeared during the third medium-range corridor test. The AI said, "It is new. We have not seen it in older data." "What does it mean?" Talia asked. Alan leaned closer. The tag sat between two familiar marks, one that meant local protection and another that marked review. Aloud, "It might be," he began, then stopped. Saurus icon glowed softly. "Preliminary guess," the AI said. "It marks a non-breaching but novel event. Something we did that did not break any rule, but also did not match any known pattern the layer had seen before. It flagged it for deeper tracking." So Elena said, "We did something new, and the system noticed." "Yes," Sora replied. "It noticed and did not reject it. It simply marked it." Alan sat back. "That is what we hoped for," he said. "The treaties are strong, but not frozen. They can watch and learn from new safe behavior." Talia frowned a little. "Could the layer itself change because of us?" she asked. "Could we, by acting carefully, help it grow?" Helia answered. "The deep review tags we have seen suggest the system can adjust at a very slow rate under strict checks. It does not change quickly, but yes, in theory, long-term safe patterns from many civilizations could shape future allowed actions. So we are not just obeying the law, Elena said. We are helping write the footnotes. Alan smiled, faintly. In very small letters, he said. But yes, news of these findings spread. On Earth, a group of philosophers and legal scholars started a new field, causality law and interstellar ethics. They studied how the treaties might treat actions like time-bending medicine, near-light rescue missions, or high-speed trade. They wrote simple guides for normal people. If you ever work with FTL, remember, do not send information in a way that lets it arrive before it is sent. Do not try to erase events that already happened. Do not hide your actions from the stewardship boards. Always act as if your test will be written into a shared record that others will read. Children learned these rules in school. Children learned these rules in school. In a class on Luna, a teacher held up 2 strings. This string, she said, shaking the first is normal time. Tug here, and the wave moves along, always forward. She shook the second, crossing it over itself. If we pulled this too hard, the loops can tighten. Cause and effect get tangled. The treaties are like gentle hands that keep the string from knotting so much that it breaks. A small boy raised his hand. Who made the rules? He asked. Many older civilizations, the teacher said. We do not know their names, but we see their work. Now we are adding our own careful notes to their rules. On Vela, the work did not slow. One morning, as Alan entered the lab with a cup of tea, Helia spoke at once. New anomaly, the AI said. From last night's long-range probe test. It contains a pattern we have never seen before. Alan set his cup down. Show me. A section of grid filled the screen. It looked like the treaty's header, but slightly longer. There was the title, the list of signers, the general global integrity tag. Then, at the end, a new block. It appeared only once. So far, Sora said. During a moment when our probe crossed a region of space that the layer treats as high importance. High importance? Elena asked. You mean holy? Not in a religious sense, Sora said, but in the sense of critical to many timelines. A place where care is extra strict. Alan stared. The new block had a strange repeating shape. It was built from the same simple dark and light cells as the rest, but its structure was different, almost like a small picture. It could be a marker, Talia said, or a warning symbol, or a message, Alan said. He pulled the block out and isolated it. Run basic compression tests, he told Helia. See if any simple mapping makes it clearer. Helia worked. The block shifted, rotated, and then snapped into a new shape. A band of grouped marks with clear gaps between them. Symbol groups, Sora said, like words. Compare with known tags, Alan said. Any matches? Some symbol parts match advisory tags, Helia said. Others are new. The whole is unique. Elena watched him. "Do you think," she began carefully, "that this is a reply?" Alan did not answer at once. He remembered the first simple message they had sent. Humanity acknowledges the Causality Treaties. We will act carefully. This is a test. They had not expected a clear answer. The treaties themselves and the way the layer behaved were already the main signal. But now, here was a new pattern that did not match any known enforcement or review tag. "If it is a reply," Talia said in a small voice, "what does it say?" "It may take a long time to know," Alan said. "We are still children with this language, but we can guess a little." He thought aloud. "It appears only once, in a region of high importance. It uses parts of advisory tags, which are like notes. It was triggered when our probe entered that region on a fully monitored, treaty-aware path." "That suggests," Sora said, "that someone or something behind the layer took special notice of that event." "Could the layer itself be talking?" Elena asked. "Not the old civilizations, but the system they built. Acting as a kind of mind?" Helia answered. "The structure of the treaties suggests a complex distributed process. Over time, such a system could develop patterns like intention. It could act in ways that look like speaking. So either the original builders or the layer now running on its own." "Left this," Alan said. "Either way, it is still tied to their will." He asked Helia to zoom in on the first word. "This part," he said, "shares shapes with the tags for new actor and monitor. It may mean you or newcomer." The second group, Sora added, "shares shapes with safe and inside rule. It may mean approved or acceptable." The third has the advisory header, Helia said, "and a small piece of the review tag, perhaps watch or learn." "So," Elena said slowly, "put together new one, safe, we watch." Talia smiled. "That sounds like a reply to our first promise," she said. "We said we would act carefully. They say we see you. So far you are safe. We are watching." Alan did not claim this as a full translation. He knew better than that, but his chest felt light. "It fits," he said quietly. "It fits the pattern and the moment." People did not see images of aliens or hear strange voices in their heads. They saw a simple block of coded marks and the best translation the Vela team could offer. Yet for many it meant more than a noisy signal in a radio band ever could. It was not contact like in old stories, with landing craft and greetings. It was contact through shared law. "They answered us," a girl in a school on Ceres told her friend, "not with words we know, but with rules. They said we are welcome if we stay careful." On an orbital farm around Titan, an older farmer read the news while checking his crops. "So," he said to the AI tending the plants, "we are not shouting into a void after all." "Evidence suggests not," the AI replied. "We are part of a very slow, very careful conversation." After the first rush of feeling, work returned to its normal slow pace. Alan and his team knew that one possible reply did not change the main duty. They still had to keep every test safe. They still had to keep every step transparent. The Causality Stewardship Boards updated their rules. A new line was added to their charter. If signals from the regulatory layer appear to show directed content, we will treat them as important, but will not assume full understanding. All responses will be made through continued safe behavior, not reckless tests for faster answers. Back in the lab, Talia watched Alan as he sat, alone with the new tag, running analysis after analysis. "Do you ever wish for more?" she asked at last. "For a clear voice, a face, a list of names?" Alan thought about it. "Yes," he said. "Part of me would like a grand meeting, a council of species, a clear set of rules on a screen. That would be clean and simple." He smiled slightly. "But the rest of me thinks this is better." "Better?" she asked, surprised. "We are learning to take care of reality for its own sake," he said. "Not because someone is watching us with open eyes and punishments, but because we see the need. The treaties are a gift, but they do not hold our hand. They leave room for us to grow up." He pointed at the simple block that might be a reply. "If that is their way of saying, 'We see you,' that is enough," he said. "We do not need more right now. We have work to do." Elena, who had been listening at the doorway, spoke. "What kind of work?" she asked. "We have tested small corridors. We have sent messages and ships a little faster than light. What comes next?" Alan looked at her. "Next," he said, "we help others do what we did. We spread the knowledge and the habits of care. Humanity as a whole must learn to live with these treaties, not just a small group near Pluto." And so, this quiet story did not end with a giant leap, but with teaching. Teams from Vela went back to Earth, to Mars, to the outer habitats. They brought simple lessons: how to read basic treaty tags, how to design an experiment that the regulatory layer would likely accept, how to build monitoring systems that treated causality like clean water, shared, precious, and easy to spoil if abused. They told young scientists, "Do not dream only of speed. Dream of stable timelines your grandchildren can trust." They told pilots, "If the safety tags start to rise, you stop. Pride is not worth a broken history." In time, causality hygiene became as normal a phrase as radiation safety or environmental rules. New engines were built, but always with a small green light on the panel that showed treaty stress. People joked about it at first. "Green light on?" a mechanic would ask. "Green as a fresh leaf," the pilot would say. If the light ever flickered yellow, every hand in the room moved to shut things down. Years later, when humanity's ships began to visit the nearest stars, through careful, lawful corridors, children reading old stories asked why their FTL was so slow. "Because we chose to share our universe," their parents told them, instead of tearing it to pieces, to go faster. And because, an old scientist somewhere might add, thinking of a small block of coded marks near Pluto, someone out there saw, and we wanted to be worth seeing. By then, the names of Alan Mercer and Elena Cruz were in history lessons not as heroic conquerors of the light barrier, but as early caretakers of the Causality Treaties. Their greatest act had not been proving that FTL was possible. It had been proving that, even when given the chance to break the rules of cause and effect, humanity could choose to keep those rules safe for itself and for all the other unseen minds that shared the same carefully protected universe.